Welcome back to Ahead of the Chains. I'm Patrick Seifer, joined by Mike DeFrancisco for this one. We're coming into that last week of March right now. At one point this week, we're looking at one trade every day. I mean, it's still very active. We're going to talk about one of the big trades to kick this thing off. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the quarterback situations, right? Some new quarterbacks with some new landing spots, some of them returning to old landing spots. How are those going to go? We ranked a few of those. Then we're going to dive into some of the members of this edge class. It's a very exciting, interesting class. So I am looking forward to getting into that. And then we're going to wrap up talking about whether or not some of these teams got better or worse through free agency. But before we get into all that, Mike, I mean, we really are in the thick of things in the offseason right now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Like I said this an episode ago. Like the NFL is just the best reality show because it's consistent content 365 days of the year. Just when you think we have that lull after free agency before the draft, well, then Jaylen Waddle gets traded for a first and a third, and all of a sudden we have things to talk about. Like the NFL is never boring. The NFL is never out of things to talk about. It is a league-wide grind for 365 days. And I know ABC is having a little trouble with their reality TV show. Maybe they want to dip more into the NFL game, but I'm telling you, it is a good time to be an NFL fan because it's popular all year round.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Let's dive further into this Jaylen Waddle trade, however, because this is one I find to be very interesting. And I find even more interesting the conversation around it, right? I want to start by looking at it a little bit more from the Dolphins angle here because the Dolphins, everyone acknowledges they're a rebuilding football team. Everyone acknowledges they just brought in a new quarterback through free agency, paid him a lot of money, all that good stuff. But for some reason, this rebuilding football team that isn't going to be good this year, when they trade away their number one wide receiver for, I think, what people will objectively agree is a haul, considering the caliber and inability to stay healthy of that given receiver. Suddenly, people are infuriated that this team doesn't have weapons. I'm so like maybe I'm the crazy one here,
I
but you trade away the receiver to get draft picks. You could use those draft picks to get a receiver. Crazy concept.
no, I in a like what you just said, I agree with. And I am with you. Like trading away Jalen Waddle was a smart move for the Dolphins. I think some people's contention with this move is maybe you signaled that you were trying to be a competent football team by signing Malik Willis, who was the premier quarterback free agent of this cycle. Granted, his contract is very manageable. But in my opinion, there is some confusion there when you sign Malik Willis to a multi-year deal. You give him, was it $67, $68 million total, and then you trade away his best weapon. Like, there seems to be no direction here for Miami. Like, again, in a vacuum, I totally agree with trading away Jaylen Waddle. They got great value for it, which we'll talk about in a second. Seems to be like it is definitely a seller's market right now. We saw the Bears do it. We saw the Dolphins do it. We're about to see the Eagles do it, I imagine. But to me, the contention that people are having, and they're not articulating it correctly, is are we tanking or are we trying to be somewhat competent? Because the Malik Willis deal tells you, okay, we're trying to be somewhat, competent. We're not maybe going to win the Super Bowl this year, but we're going to fight and claw to get 8, 9 wins. And then you trade away Jaylen Waddle, and it's like, well, we just turned left, and now we're making a 90-degree turn right. So I think it's the lack of direction that people are up in arms about, not necessarily the move in a vacuum. But when you combine it with Malik Willis, it does, raise some eyebrows for me because that was one of my first thoughts too. Is like, what direction are the Dolphins going? You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I think a lot of people's minds are at.
Maybe I just set my Ford up way too early and I looked at a certain day from this Dolphins team and instantly kind of set my tent up on this team is tanking just very quick. But when they chose to release both Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill in the same day, I thought it was very clear what this team is, right? And signing a 26-year-old quarterback who is not this proven commodity doesn't show anything different. I mean, again, maybe I'm crazy here, and I love Malik Willis. I'm a big Malik Willis guy.
Yeah, you're
But
building
it's
a Malik
not
Willis
like,
stature. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to act like he's a proven commodity. So why
No,
are we acting like bringing in a 26-year-old quarterback is this win now move, and now all of a sudden you can't trade away your wide receiver one? I just don't
Again,
get that. I feel like everything they've done as a team with a first-year head coach shows you this team is not trying to win right now.
if that's where I think it gets interesting, because if you're gonna be bad, why go out and get the top quarterback free agent on the market? Like,
Because he's
again,
26.
it's the
He'll still be a very good quarterback 10 years down the line.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well,
But
if you are optimistic about Malik Willis, you are not expecting him to fade out after 4 years.
if you're optimistic about Malik Willis, why would you trade his number one receiver a week into him being a Dolphin?
Because you got a first rounder, a third rounder, and a fourth out of it.
Well,
That's why you did it.
To be clear, again, the Dolphins, I think, did the correct thing with Jaylen Waddle. But now looking back, like, why did they give that money? It's not like they're strapped for cash. It's not like, they're in a contention window. I get it. It's not the most egregious offense, but I understand the confused direction of a lot of fans. But to be clear, the Jaylen Waddle move was a great move. Like, the draft picks they got back a first and a third. They traded away Jaylen Waddle in a fourth. He gets to reunite with former Alabama teammate Pat Surtain, who, like, a day or two before the trade said that he would beat the shit out of in a boxing match. I don't know if you saw that clip. That was pretty funny.
I did. It was funny.
It was pretty good.
Ironic that played out that way.
But I think, from the Dolphins' angle, we're both on the same page. This is a good move. I want to talk about this from the Broncos' angle, because I think this is more interesting. The Broncos had to make this move. Like, they absolutely had to make a move like this, because they were the only team in the NFL that did not add an outside free agent. A lot of teams added a couple small tier guys, whatever. Seattle didn't spend a lot of money. Other teams, like the Bears, really didn't bring in anybody big other than like Kobe Bryant, whatever. Those teams that didn't spend a lot of money. The Broncos spent nothing. And for a team that was in the AFC Championship game, who could reasonably dilute themselves into believing if our quarterback didn't break his ankle in the divisional round, we go to the Super Bowl, their lack of activity in the offseason was inexcusable, in my opinion. So to go out and make a big swing like this, get a Jaylen Waddle, a Pro Bowl receiver, a guy with I wouldn't say cheap, but a manageable contract to pair up with your young quarterback. He's also, a very different receiver than what they have in a Courtland Sutton. He kind of provides, obviously, that ability to stretch the field, hit the big plays, whereas I think Courtland Sutton, is like your big body possession catch receiver. So now they have two distinct weapons. Marvin Mims, I don't think really has been as productive as they wanted, but Jaylen Waddle's been a really good player. Obviously, he's played second fiddle to Tyreek Hill, but I'm wondering, Patrick, are you on the same page with me? Because I thought this was an absolute great move for the Broncos. I don't care about the draft picks. I understand it's a seller's market. This is a move they had to make because they got to capitalize on Bo Nix's contract for the next few years.
So, Mike, we're roughly 8 minutes into this episode right now, and I already feel like it's just going to be one of those episodes.
It's going to be one of those episodes.
In terms of the two of us kind of just arguing.
Yep.
It really does feel like that's going to be the case. Because I do agree. In a vacuum, adding Jaylen Waddle to this football team makes them a better team. Without a doubt. Yes. Waddle might just be like a perfect, in terms of play style, perfect complement to Courtland Sutton and what he does. I'm not denying that whatsoever. What I am going to say, though, is you were an injured quarterback away, maybe even just some bad weather away from making it to the Super Bowl.
They lost the Patriots by 3 with Jarrett Stidham.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You were so close to being literally the AFC representative, and then maybe you win that game. Like, I'd still think if Bo Nix plays, man, not only do they beat the Patriots, let me say, they'll definitely give Seattle a run. I'll say that at least. I really do stand that way.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Bo Nix, get ready to meet 5 turnovers, buddy.
But, like, in all actuality, I do think the Broncos are that caliber of team. And you lost John Franklin Myers. Okay, that's a decent loss.
That's a big sting, yeah.
It is. But there wasn't really, at least I think, there wasn't really that much that you needed to address. There really isn't. And you had the draft picks to eventually address what you needed to address. So I think the entire not being active in free agency thing, I think it's overblown a little bit. I really do.
Nothing, though? Like, they didn't bring in one guy?
Yeah, I mean, they could have. But, like, are you telling me you would feel that much different if this team brought in, some third-string safety just as a depth play?
I'm not saying they need listen, I'm not saying they needed to break the bank, and I'm not even saying that just spend $2 million on the safety would have made the whole thing better. But weapons, I disagree with you saying that they needed nothing. They needed weapons. They
No,
100%.
they
Their
well,
receiver depth was tested in the playoffs
they
100%.
wanted to add some receiver talent, but this is my thing here. 30th overall pick. There are guys that are there in this class. Omar Cooper, I like. KC Concepcion, I like. Those are two players that are perfectly in that range that I like at the wide receiver position, right?
Yeah.
Jaylen Waddle is a better proven commodity than those two. I'm not saying he isn't. Jaylen Waddle is also the 12th highest paid receiver in football. Jaylen Waddle also cost you that along with a third rounder. Jaylen Waddle hasn't really proven the ability to stay on the football field. And
Yeah,
that's a big thing here.
That is true.
The best ability is availability, man. And I know I get the entire logic of, oh, yeah, you keep the 30th overall pick. You can get any receiver you want. He might even be Jaylen Waddle. I get that entire mentality.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this offense was still a good unit last year. And it wasn't because of the receiver play. It was a good unit because they have the best offensive line in football. You just need to have a good enough receiver unit to complement that, right? And I'm not saying that they didn't need to add to it, but I do think this was an over-aggressive move where you overpaid for an injury-prone wide receiver.
I'm going to make two
that I think is also not on the friendliest deal on earth.
Yeah. I'm going to make two counterpoints. Number one, you talked about the draft picks being a little pricey. I agree with you. Like in a vacuum, would I love to trade a first and a third for Jaylen Waddle? Probably not. But A, it's a seller's market. B, the Broncos are in this position right now, like the Bears, like the Patriots, like the Commanders, where you have a stud quarterback on his rookie deal. You got to push all the chips on the table, right? You just have to. You have to take advantage of Bo Nix making $60 million less AAV than he's going to in a few years. Number one. Number two, me and you on this podcast just a week and a half ago applauded the Rams' effort for trading away pick 29 to get Trent McDuffie. Almost the exact same trade for Trent McDuffie. Now, I understand that Trent McDuffie's probably a better player versus Jaylen Waddle, but when you're talking about a team almost went to and won the Super Bowl, both teams, trading for a major position of need, check, gave up a bottom 5 pick in the first round plus another mid-round pick, it's the same trade. It really is the same trade. Again, Trent McDuffie's a little better. I'm not arguing that.
Much better.
But it's essentially the same trade. So I don't know. I think it would be hypocritical for me to sit here and say, wow, the Rams did such a good thing. Way to go being aggressive. When the Broncos were in, literally, their season ended the exact same way as the Rams did. And the difference is the Rams quarterback we think is close to retiring. The Broncos quarterback is on his rookie deal, and so we have to push the chips on the table now. I think it's pretty much the same trade. I like it 25% more, or 20 to 25% more for the Rams because the player's better and they're a better team with Matthew Stafford. But it's basically the same deal. So I think I'd be hypocritical if I applauded the Rams trade for Trent McDuffie and then dissed this trade. I think you got to be aggressive. You know what I'm saying? I think you got to be aggressive. So
I disagree because I don't think that, like, Trent McDuffie, if you got a Trent McDuffie caliber player with a first round pick, you are beyond ecstatic. Beyond ecstatic. If you get a Jaylen Waddle in the first round, that's just like a first round caliber player. That's what I think, right? The difference is Jaylen Waddle, you're bringing in at the age of 28. You're bringing Jaylen Waddle after he has already proven he has an injury history, and you're bringing him in, this is, I think, the big thing, after his rookie deal. This year, it's fine because the Dolphins are eating most of the cap. They're only paying him $4 million this year, $5 million. Next year's a $27 million cap. Year after that, he's $30 million. That is not team friendly. And considering what you gave up in order to pay that money now, I do think this team makes the 2026 Denver Broncos a better football team. My concern is the 2027 Denver Broncos and the 2028 Denver Broncos. I do think those two teams would be better if they had an Omar Cooper. And then whoever they draft in round 3.
I think in the NFL we see so often windows for teams close so rapidly. Talk about the Lions, right? Went to the NFC Championship game. Following year, the number 1 seed. I mean, that win that they had, the win that they almost had in the NFC Championship game, that was their last time, in position to win a playoff game, because the Commanders kicked their butt the next year as a 1 seed, and then they missed the playoffs this year. 2027 and 2028 Broncos might not be a good team, Jaylen Waddle or not. It's about the 2026 Broncos. I think for them specifically, I don't have this motto with every team, but with them specifically, 2026 is the year that Patrick Mahomes is still recovering from his torn ACL. The King's not going to be down for long. I don't imagine that the Chiefs are going to be this, in a rut for 5 years. You might only have 365 days to get your Super Bowl. And because of that, I think that's a big part of this equation. It sounds silly to me to justify it. It sounds silly to justify a trade because your division rival's quarterback is hurt. But I think for the Broncos case, it really is an acceptable explanation for it. Patrick Mahomes is coming off of a torn ACL. The AFC last year was not good. You almost won it. You were this close. If the Broncos, granted, Bo Nix broke his ankle, so that's a bit of an anomaly. But if Jaylen Waddle is added to that, if you copy and paste the 2025 Broncos to 2026 and you add Jaylen Waddle, who can't they beat? They beat Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson, first-year coach, maybe he's not as good. Joe Burrow doesn't have a defense. The Patriots, I imagine, are going to regress. The Chiefs, like I said, Patrick Mahomes coming off torn ACL. I think they're pushing all the chips on the table for 2026, and I applaud that because I think for the Broncos, once the boogeyman gets back to full health, it's going to be a lot harder. So for
Can
them,
I ask you why that wouldn't be the case either way? Why would the Broncos not be able to still beat Josh Allen next year, even without Jaylen Waddle?
Because maybe Josh Allen doesn't have 5 turnovers next time they play. I mean, he had 5 turnovers and they won in overtime. That's the thing. You're not going to get a 5-turnover Josh Allen game every time you play him. You got lucky. You took advantage. You made enough plays at the end. You won. But maybe they don't need 5 turnovers. They have Jaylen Waddle, who takes a skinny post to the house, or et cetera, right?
Or doesn't play in the game because he got hurt.
Again, I'm not going to sit here.
I that's the most me possible thing to say.
That is you. That is the most possible thing to say.
But that's the reality of what Jaylen Waddle is.
Yeah, there's risk.
And I do think when he's on the field, difference maker in this offense, especially difference maker. I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying he's 28. He already proved he has an issue staying on the field. It's a really risky move that I don't think was worth doing. That's how I'll phrase it. Can it win them a Super Bowl? Yes. But I think you could also make a strong argument they maybe would have won a Super Bowl either way. Right? Because I do think with or without Jaylen Waddle, this team is a Super Bowl team.
I think one interesting part of this is, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this, but the A.J. Brown element, if they gave up a first and a third and they got back and forth for Waddle, what was the price on A.J. Brown? Was it a first and a second?
This is all Brandon Beane's fault because of DJ Moore.
This is all Brandon Beane's fault. This is reverse Moneyball. He's this evil twin doppelganger of Billy Beane, because Billy Beane is all about being cheap and finding the value. Brandon Beane is all about driving up the price for everybody. So now A.J. Brown's going to go for he's going to get the Max Crosby deal. He's going to go for 2 firsts. It's going to be
so quick. If you were to look at a winner, who do you say?
Denver, 100%.
Easily. Not close for you?
It's close because Miami got a lot of great capital. I think
Denver got a lot of capital. I mean, both teams are in completely different spots. Yeah, but I think
there's a win-win. I think it's probably an A for both teams.
I would say again, I just think it's an unnecessary risk. I think for Denver.
Who knows? If Waddle is healthy and Waddle is able to play, if you could guarantee Waddle stays
healthy, man, you still overpaid probably, but it's valid.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Which you can never do in football. So validating a trade because of potential injury is just you're playing.
When the guy has a history, it's different.
Yes, I get it. But if Jaylen Waddle plays 17 games next year, they look like a genius. If he plays 5 because he tweaks his hamstring, they look like an idiot. It's that part we can't project. I'm talking about if we're getting a healthy Jaylen Waddle, what is the value? What is he doing to this offense? I think it's a great move for Denver. And with Sean Payton calling plays, not that he didn't have a good play in Miami, but
I mean, this is going to unlock a new element of the Sean Payton offense because he's such a great deep ball guy.
Exactly.
But now let's talk a little bit about some quarterback situations here. A lot of quarterback movement throughout free agency. Not guys that you fall in love with per se, but definitely some interesting names here. I mean, we got guys like Malik Willis on the move to Miami. We were just talking about that. Geno Smith going back to the Jets. I want to talk about an interesting one. Aaron Rodgers maybe going back to Pittsburgh. It looks like that's supposed to happen. I want to talk about all these teams that address their quarterback need through free agency, or we're expecting them to, which is again why Aaron Rodgers is on this list. I asked you to rank all the quarterback moves, starting quarterback moves here by how you expect the marriage to go down. How about we take us down your list really quick here?
Yeah, I'll start with number one, and I think this is number one by a country mile. Kyler Murray going to the Minnesota Vikings. Listen, the Minnesota Vikings last year went 9-8, right? I know they won 5 games in a row at the end of the year, but their defense was really, really good. The reason that the Vikings didn't make the playoffs is A, their division was stacked, and B, they had the worst quarterback play in the NFL by far. By far.
Yeah.
Max Brosmer, J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, all horrible F-. I'm not saying that Kyler Murray is going to step into Minnesota and be the 2021 version of himself. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that if Kyler Murray is the 20th best quarterback in the NFL, the Vikings are going to be a really damn good football team. No disrespect to him. We saw what the Vikings had in 2024 when they had good quarterback play. They went 14-3. They were 60 minutes away from having the number 1 seed in the NFC. What happens if Kyler Murray can give you 80% of what Sam Darnold gave you in 2024? By my math, they're going 12-5 next year, right? I think Kyler Murray, is he, in his prime? Is he a perfect schematic fit with Kevin O'Connell? No. But he'll give them stability at quarterback. He'll give them a real quarterback, something that they haven't had since Sam Darnold left for the greener pastures of Seattle. This is a Vikings team that I think is ready to go in all areas but one, which is quarterback. Adding an adult to the room, and I know I make you jokes. I know he's small, whatever. Adding an adult to the room and a guy who's been an NFL veteran quarterback, maturity concerns and all, because I know that's another thing you guys are going to say. This dramatically improves the ceiling of this Vikings team, and I imagine, again, he's seeing a similar path to the Sam Darnold thing, where it's 1 year in Minnesota, has a really good year, and that's going to springboard him into a long-term contract next offseason. So I don't know that this marriage is going to be till death do us part, but I think this marriage is going to be very fast. You fall in love quick. There's the honeymoon phase for 12 months. Things are going to be going great until he gets that big deal next offseason. So I have Kyler Murray to Minnesota as my perfect marriage in the quarterback free agency market.
Who do you think had more yards last year? Not that yards are a perfect stat, but just as a reference to how productive these players were. Jameson Williams or Justin Jefferson?
Oh my gosh. You're going to make everybody in Minnesota cry.
Well, and that's kind of my thing here. It's hard to make Justin Jefferson feel like a forgettable receiver.
Yeah.
McCarthy was so bad, it legitimately was the case. Remember how much damage Kyler Murray was able to do with DeAndre Hopkins?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you give Kyler Murray a very high caliber receiver, an elite receiver, maybe one of the best receivers in football, some may say.
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
He was in top 2 conversations until he got J.J. McCarthy, and now nobody brings him up anymore.
Yeah,
that's not his fault. yeah. With Sam Darnold, it was like he's the best receiver in the league.
Exactly. So Kyler Murray, I don't care what the scheme is, right? I do admit, there's a little bit of annoying things about Kevin O'Connell. He knows how to operate a certain system, and man, can he operate that. Can he call plays in a more pro style, under center, lean on the play action game, timing-based offense. Man, can he do that. And he's going to have to lean away from that because of Kyler Murray. But at a certain point, it's just pitch and catch.
Yeah.
You got a guy that can pitch the rock in Kyler Murray.
Yep.
And Justin Jefferson can definitely catch it.
Yep.
It's hard not to design a good offense when you have the two guys together.
And that's the other point I made, because I know you brought that up a couple weeks ago. If the Vikings had picked up Kyler Murray at the trade deadline or a week before the season started, I'd be like, okay, this offense, him, don't fit. Kevin O'Connell has 6 months to design an offense for Kyler Murray. I'm pretty sure he's going to get on the whiteboard and draw some shit up. He's going to be perfectly good, I think, to change his offense to match the skill set of Kyler Murray, which is obviously, at its best, a very dynamic, very strong-armed quarterback. I saw somebody compare him one time to a Harley Davidson because he's got a lot of power and a very compact size. And I kind of like that comparison. I don't think we're going to call him the Harley Davidson of quarterbacks. Maybe
that'd be fun. I like that. Kyler never really had the explosive nickname. So
no, he hasn't. K1.
I'm completely down to call him the Harley Davidson quarterback.
I will say he is one bad game away from being called 9, and I do not pity that for any Vikings quarterback for the rest of our lives. There's going to be a McCarthy meme after like a 2-interception game.
I do want to revisit the scheme thing just really quick because it is worth mentioning. Kevin O'Connell was there when they were trying to overlap what Stafford is comfortable in and what he's been doing his entire career with Detroit with what McVay likes to do. And they made that kind of weird hybrid between the spread offense that Stafford likes and the McVay offense that made McVay great, right? So it is worth mentioning, like Kevin O'Connell can go a little bit back to those early 2000s Rams or early 2020s Rams playbooks here. So I'm not freaking out. I agree. This is the best situation right here. And I'm hoping we don't see Mike McCarthy on the field again.
No, trust me,
JJ
if we're talking about my list, Mike McCarthy's not getting mentioned for a hot minute. But number 2 on my list in terms of quarterback marriages, sometimes, you break up with somebody and things, they seem irreparable. And you go about your life. Maybe you go to college, you date some other girls, she dates some other guys. And you look back and you're like, man, I really miss so-and-so, right? Maybe some of you have had that experience. Maybe you haven't. I have not, but, no judgment. And maybe that's the marriage that is Geno Smith and the Jets. Maybe it was the right person, wrong time when they drafted him in 2013 out of West Virginia. And now it's the time, they're both in their 30s. They're trying to settle down, and they rekindled their relationship with each other. I really like this marriage for the Jets and for Geno Smith for 2 reasons. Number 1, Geno Smith gets an opportunity to prove that last year with the Raiders was just an aberration. Like the quarterback that we saw in Seattle, that I saw in Seattle, is the true form of Geno Smith, right? The Raiders were just an abysmal mess from coaching, from talent-wise, from everything. You bring up Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers missed time. He had the, was it the knee or the ankle? I don't remember which one. But offensive line, atrocious. Receiving game, atrocious. Defense, atrocious. Coaching, atrocious. Going to the Jets, now I'm not going to use the word stability when I talk about the Jets, but what I will use is they've got some firepower on offense. You got a good running back in Breece Hall. You got a really good receiver in Garrett Wilson, who I know missed time. And the most important thing for me and for Geno Smith is they got a pretty good offensive line going in New York, okay? They got some really good young talent on that offensive line. And I think that Geno Smith is going to thrive, might be a strong word, but he's going to remind people that, hey, last year in Oakland was not – Oakland, Unk status. I do that every episode. Last year in Las Vegas was not the guy that he is. He's not the guy who's going to lead the league in interceptions because Geno does not handle pressure well. We know this. He did that in Seattle. Definitely did that last year. So the fact that the Jets have a good offensive line gives me a lot of confidence for Geno Smith to be able to distribute the ball and play playmaker because, again, people hated him when he was in Seattle. Like, people, they're not real Geno Smith truthers like I am, like I saw with my own eyes. Granted, he left the team and we won the Super Bowl, so, whatever, who cares? But I'm telling you, I really think that this is going to work. Again, is this going to be like a 20-year, oh my God, he's our franchise quarterback for the next 10 years? But I don't know, call me a romantic, man. I love the rekindled nature with Geno Smith and the Jets, and I think it's going to work out to the tune of 6-11.
I think Geno Smith's main issue last year, and it was clear on film, I really thought, lack of confidence. And I'm sorry.
Have an offensive line.
Well, sure, that is true. But I don't think playing for the New York Jets exactly brings someone's confidence back. I'm sorry. The Jets in general, they don't exactly revive careers.
They got offensive pieces, though, and that's what makes me more optimistic.
They do. But I think we have to prepare for the possibility that maybe the Geno Smith we saw in Seattle was the anomaly. And the Geno Smith we saw last year and the Geno Smith we saw pretty much every other year of his career, besides the 3-year window. And honestly, 2 years. The last year in Seattle wasn't great either.
Yeah.
Maybe the 2 years in Seattle were more of the anomaly, and the rest of Geno Smith is who he actually is.
Maybe
that's a possibility here.
I was thinking about this, like, you look at Sam Darnold, you look at Geno, you look at Russell Wilson. All 3 of those guys played their best in Seattle. A stable organization, good coaching, for the majority
of not the Jets.
Yeah, good organization, good GMing, good leadership from top down. And you're right, that isn't the Jets. That isn't Jets. But you know what? Definitely wasn't the Raiders either. You're right. That's true. So could it get worse? I don't think so. That's why it can only go up. It can only go
Okay.
up. No, but
Okay.
I'm more so looking at it from a offensive talent perspective, what they have. And
They do.
I'm
They
really
have some guys.
circling, and underlining the offensive line. I think it's leaps and bounds better than it was in Vegas last year.
Hmm. Well, what do we got next up here?
So next up, this is a guy who might have actually had a strong case for number 2 until they traded his number 1 receiver, and probably are trading a starting running back. And that's Malik Willis. You really, I don't want to say radicalized, but you really made me ponder. Hey, maybe Malik Willis is that effing guy.
This film is so good.
For our
I'm sorry, I just need to remind people his film against Green Bay or against Baltimore specifically this year. I know that's one game. It was unbelievable. It was one of the best games by a quarterback all year.
Yeah.
And you look at his film from the rest of his career too. Except the Tennessee stuff's bad. But if you look at the other games he's played under LaFleur, this guy's a quarterback, man. He can ball. I just need to say that.
Can I make a random aside that you're gonna hate, and we're just not gonna acknowledge that I say it at all? We're just gonna completely move on.
Okay.
If Malik Willis got a second chance, Will Levis should too. Anyways, okay, so we're gonna keep talking about Malik Willis in Miami
for my own mental health.
Yeah, let's not start. We have plenty of fires to start today. There's gonna be a fire. There's gonna be a fire here in about 15 minutes, so we'll pump the brakes on this. But no, I liked the move at Malik Willis. I liked the destination of Miami. I said that before free agency, but man, that's pretty bare bones this roster now that I'm really thinking about it. And maybe the Jaylen Waddle trade woke me up, and maybe I was hoping Jaylen Waddle was going to be a 1,600-yard receiver. I don't really know. But I was thinking, okay, it's fine. And now I'm looking at their offense, and I'm like, man, especially if they trade A-Chain. So I like the player.
People.
I like the player.
It'll just be a bunch of young bucks and Malik Willis.
Malik Willis and them. Be good. Who knows if they'll be good. I was optimistic about the new regime in there, but I don't know. I don't know if this marriage is going to work. I don't know. I don't have another love pun, so you talk. I'll watch The Notebook really quick, and I'll come up with one, but I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work, honestly.
I think it's valid concern. As much as I like Malik Willis, I can't act like I love the landing spot. I really don't. I wanted him to kind of go to an offensive-minded head coach here, not Halfley. I don't love that. Don't love the OC situation there. The next one you got here, though, this I think is the one I disagree with the most out of all your quarterback rankings on your list. This next one, I know it's not flashy, but it is one I think will be a lot more productive than people expect. So go ahead and present your case for why Arizona is third to the bottom here.
Yeah, I want to bring back my Malik Willis pun. It's like when you start dating a DJ and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun. But then you realize they leave I was thinking about it. I wasn't lying. I was like, I didn't hear what you said at all those last couple minutes. I was just thinking about a pun. And you go to his house and he lives in a 1-bedroom apartment who's 500 square feet, and there's Pizza Hut box on the table, and you're like, oh, was this a good idea? I'm kind of regretting this. That's the love pun for Malik Willis. Now, the love pun for Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew, it's you're dating a librarian. You know what I'm saying? You know what you're getting.
Sure.
You know what you're getting.
That's
not
a good.
exciting.
I actually really do like this.
I'm good at this, dude. I'm telling you, I am really good at this. We need to do a segment like this every week. But you're dating a librarian. Not the most exciting. She doesn't like spicy food. She doesn't listen to She doesn't like EDM or anything like that. She listens to I don't know, Lana Del Rey or something. There's not really any excitement there. But the floor is high because she's loyal. You know that nothing bad's going to really ever happen in your relationship. There's not going to be any heartbreak. But you're lacking that that oomph, that those moments where your heart is beating 100 miles an hour. Justin Fields would be the inverse of this, right? You're like, oh my gosh, Justin Fields is awesome. The plays he makes. And then he's like, dude, you broke my heart. You threw it into quadruple coverage, So to me, Arizona is not a situation that is going to inspire any confidence. It's not a situation where I'm like, man, the ceiling of the Cardinals, man, they could really be something. Man, their offense is going to be scary. Good weapons, decent offensive line, I would say. Well, actually, let me rephrase. Really good weapons because I'm high on Marvin Harrison. We know how good Trey McBride is. I want to see their running game get a little bit better. Right now, that's a big question mark for me. But, yeah, it's kind of like dating the librarian, man. Nothing exciting, but, you're not going to get your heart broken, I guess. So there's a plus
I
there,
just like this more. So I agree the quarterbacks, very boring. Neither of these quarterbacks are going to, change the world for you.
Yeah.
But I do think these are the types of receivers that you will have a surprisingly good offense with in spite of your quarterback play. Because I do genuinely think this is like a top 10 receiving group in the league.
Yeah.
McBride's incredible. And even if you don't love Marvin Harrison,
Which I do.
Michael Wilson at the back half of last year was genuinely looking like
Randy Moss.
I mean, he looked incredible at the
Yeah.
end of last year.
Yeah.
So even if you do have just a glimmer of hope in Marvin Harrison, and then Trey McBride's the wide receiver 1 anyway,
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison's the third option.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
dude,
thought
I love this. I love
the
infrastructure
chemistry
they have.
with him and Kyler just never synced for some reason. Like it was just weird. And he definitely was a lot better, I think, with Jacoby Brissett, who, to be clear, I imagine wins this job. He's been there. Yeah. He's a veteran guy. Gardner is as well, but nothing crazy exciting for me on that end. Now I want to talk about one that these last two, man. I'm just not.
This
not
next
with
one
it
hasn't happened. We do have to.
This next one hasn't happened.
He
has not emerged.
But it hasn't.
He has not emerged from the ayahuasca cave just yet, but it will happen. And that's Aaron Rodgers going back to Pittsburgh. I mean, man, this is like going to the gas station, picking up some Cheetos, and then you date the girl behind the counter that smokes cigarettes on her lunch break. Like, nothing is gonna happen. Nothing's gonna come of this. There is no hope for, hey, maybe this turns into something. This is a 1-year deal. The Pittsburgh Steelers are gonna go 9-8. They're gonna not win a playoff game. Like
it sucks. I like their free agency too.
Yeah, they actually did pretty good in free agency. There is no situation where this thing blossoms into any, oh my God, this is a beautiful marriage. I will say, given the fact that he's going back with Mike McCarthy, it would be like dating the cigarette girl at the gas station, who's also your ex from like middle school. So this to me has zero chance of success. Absolutely horrible. Both sides need to move on. Well, I can't believe this is happening in the year.
You just said it would be a resounding success. They'll go 9-8.
Which is clearly what the Steelers want. So in that regard, if you if your goal is to get some free white monsters, hey, this is a great relationship. We're doing great. If you want to get some Takis from the third counter, like, awesome. But if your goal is anything more substantial than that, there's no chance here. There's no opportunity.
Yeah, there's going to be games where you legitimately question how your offense even got 6 points.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Listen, Rodgers will have like 3 games throughout the year where you're like, holy, Aaron Rodgers. And then the rest of the games, it's going to be putrid, disgusting. The same as last year, which makes you question, why the hell are you running it back? But I digress. We have a move you consider even worse here.
I want to just say this. I don't know what the relationship equivalent would be. I'm really racking my brain. This is like dating your best friend's ex. It's like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, this is absolutely horrid. Two of the Dolphins, two of the Falcons. Come on, man. What are we doing, Atlanta? Kevin Stefanski? What's going on, dude? What are you doing? Like, how did they go from Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix specifically, who's a young quarterback, lefty, had been very inaccurate, been very injured, to Tua, who is also injured, also lefty, very limited. Michael Penix at least has some firepower. He doesn't know how to aim the missile yet because he was wildly inaccurate. But Tua, he's got a squirt gun for an arm. This is a guy, I mean, I don't know what the thought process was here. I understand you're getting him for very, very cheap because, he got cut by Miami. But this is what? When I saw the Falcons were signing Tua, I was in shock. I don't know how this makes them a better football team at all. And I think one of the worst things that you could have is a popular backup, a guy with a big name who is not playing.
Sure. I like
who is
that.
not playing up to the standard of his name.
That's the one direction where I can say fine, because everything else, I do actually like the idea of Michael Penix being in a quarterback battle. Because that's what you have to understand here.
With Tua?
This and Arizona are the only two real quarterback battles here.
But the Arizona Cardinals, forgive me, Arizona Cardinals fans, have no shot in 2026. The Falcons have a shot. Their division is horrible.
But Penix becomes better because he's competing.
I mean, sure, but
that's why
I don't
it works.
know.
And it's so low risk.
You could have brought in Gardner Minshew then. It's not low risk. I don't think it's low risk. Money
Look at
wise,
how
it's low
little
risk.
they're paying Tua.
Money wise, it's low risk. But Michael Penix has one bad game, and fans are going to be clamoring for Tua. And I don't know that you want everybody like we've seen over the past years. Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, all these like busts that go to a new spot and are really, really good. What do you think the Falcons fans are going to be thinking about Tua? They're going to dilute themselves into thinking that Tua is the next Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones,
So
etc.
Penix better perform.
But I don't know.
And also, what if in a Stefanski offense that knows how to put the training wheels on, what if they can make Tua, miss game manager McGee, hit 30 quick slants in a game?
But then why couldn't Michael Penix do that?
Huh? Well, if Michael Penix can do that, then he'll win the job.
Yeah, and then you have a super popular backup. But
it made Penix better.
I also think Tua's in that weird spot where he's very popular in name, but everybody outside of probably Atlanta right now thinks he's horrible. So if he beats Michael Penix coming out of camp, oh my God, the alarm bells are going.
Penix isn't the answer. I feel like this is just a perfect way to get a litmus test of what Penix is.
I don't know, man. Maybe you're right. I think some other teams need some couples counseling here because a lot of these relationships are not going to stand the test of time. But speaking of love and hate, because those are two very strong emotions, I do think that you are about to hate me because we got to get into our edge rusher rankings for this upcoming draft. Obviously, with the draft coming up, one of the major positions that everybody pays attention to every year is the edge rusher position. Many people say that the edge rusher is the second most important position in football next to the quarterbacks. And so we're going to dive probably head first into some controversial edge rusher rankings. I'm certain that there's at least one thing controversial about both of our lists. But Patrick, last segment was mine. It was the marriage segment. I came with the metaphors and the relationships and everything. This segment and this list belongs to you. So why don't you take us through your edge rusher rankings, and then I will, of course, give the correct or the analytical view of what I think, and then we could deliberate back and forth. Hopefully not punch each other through the screen. Maybe we'll get through all 7 during this segment, but who knows at the end of the day. So, Patrick, do you want to start us off with who is at the top of your list?
Yeah, so if you've heard me talk draft, you know who my number one edge is going to be. It's Arvell Reese. I adore this guy. I adore him. Whether it's an off-ball linebacker or an edge rusher, he's unbelievable. I mean, you have a guy right here who is such a remarkable combination of just overall athleticism in terms of lateral agility. His motor is nonstop. And I think in terms of pound for pound strength, he is maybe the strongest player I've evaluated in my 6 years of scouting. Really. Like, he is unbelievable as a bull rusher. He moves guys effortlessly. He sets the edge at such a top-notch level. I know he doesn't really have the reps at edge rusher, but when you look at the film he does have, when he's lined up at the edge position, there's not a lot to dislike here. I mean, everything in terms of pass rush moves. He doesn't rep them often because he normally just wins single-handedly with his bull rush. But when he does need to work another move, he does, and he does it effortlessly, and he wins. I mean, he does have moves. A little bit thin for a full-time edge, but again, his strength more than makes up for it. I love Arvell Reese. I think the only thing that holds him back, again, is the fact he played a little bit too much off-ball linebacker for teams to love him as an edge rusher. But again, you just got to evaluate the film that's out there, and the film that's out there says he is unbelievable edge rusher. Again, the way this guy mauls people, both in the run game and when he's pass rushing, it's unbelievable. His strength alone is what gets him this ranking right here. He's one of my favorite edges I've evaluated ever, and that's even with the limited film.
Yeah, no, I think, part of the complaint about him playing off-ball linebacker at Ohio State is I always make the analogy like, when you're on your 11U travel baseball team, the best kid is playing third base, he's playing first base, he's playing pitcher, he's the catcher, and they just move him around wherever it's most advantageous. And that's what Ohio State did with Arvell Reese. I'm with you. Speed to power. His pass rush repertoire maybe is not as big as you like, but again, that's probably lack of experience. But I think he projects very well going into the draft. I have him at number 1. The easy comp is Micah Parsons. I don't know if he'll ever be as good as Micah Parsons, but just in terms of the snap count at college, you remember James Franklin was playing a linebacker as well. He's just a freaky athlete, Micah Parsons.
Here's the crazy thing, though. He's Micah Parsons with more power on the frame. I
Yeah,
mean,
Micah Parsons is a twitchier athlete for sure, but
is he? Like, here's what people forget.
Micah Parsons is one
Because
of the best
Arvell
athletes I've ever
Reese
seen at edge.
is Arvell Reese not?
I
I mean,
think
look
he's
at
really
his
good.
combine. Look at the way this guy moves laterally. Look at the way he bends around the edge. I mean, he really does have every physical tool A plus plus plus, right? He's similar to Micah Parsons in terms of the evaluation because they threw him all over the field. But I really do think you have Micah Parsons caliber athleticism with a completely different level of run defending ability. I do think you're looking at potentially a stronger Micah Parsons as the ceiling here.
So we're both in agreement that Arvell Reese is edge 1.
Yeah.
Who is your edge 2 on your list, Patrick?
Ruben Bain. Short arms, you don't like the short arms. You definitely don't. But I'm just going through the notes here. Another guy with remarkable play strength. Loved his first step. I do think his bend around the edge was very good. And even though the arms are short, he knows how to use the hands well. And even though the arms are short, when he gets hands inside, this guy could work a push-pull like no one else. I mean, his push-pull really is impressive. Another guy who has the strong anchor to really play the run well, set the edge. Of course, the short arms, that's the major knock on him. Lacks counter moves a little bit, right? Sometimes offensive linemen will just outreach him and then he doesn't have an answer, right? And the same way we saw Will Campbell get dominated in the playoffs because he had short arms, we're going to see Ruben Bain get beat by some offensive tackles just because of the arms. And there's not really much he could do about it. But when he can get inside consistently, when he is against a more passive offensive tackle that won't really bring the fight to him, and he has more of the ability to control the rep, Ruben Bain, he's gonna have some really impressive tape in those situations. The same way he did in college. I'm a big Ruben Bain guy. I am. Again, if he had longer arms, we're talking about a completely different player.
Yeah.
But the short arms are his little nerf. He is still a really impressive player, though. There's no doubting that.
I think two things to what you said. First off, I think it's actually worse for an offensive lineman to have short arms, a Will Campbell, than it would be a defensive lineman. Obviously, that depends on the way that these guys get into their pass sets and everything like that. But you're right; his hands are violent. So even though he has short arms, I mean, if an offensive lineman is extending and reaching toward him, he could swipe that out of the way, and it's not as much of a factor as an offensive lineman who has to initiate contact. That's number one. Number two. The word that I think about that pops into my head when I see Ruben Bain play is disruptor. This guy, he's just all over the field. He is relentless. His motor is crazy. You saw him in Miami last year. I mean, I love a guy who I can trust on 3rd and 10 and 2nd and 2. I love a guy like that. I think Ruben Bain is one of those guys. Played with just a reckless abandon. You're right. The arm length is worrisome a little bit. I saw a stat that was basically like no pass rusher has been taken in the top 40 picks with I think it was 31-inch arms, which is a little bit more than what Ruben Bain has. That's suspicious. That's maybe something to keep your eye on. But I loved his film at Miami. He was a true disruptor. He was violent. He was he was the heart and soul, I think, of that Miami defense who went all the way to the national championship game. So we're on the same page with Arvell Reese. We're on the same page with Ruben Bain. This might be where, two roads diverge on a yellow road.
Yes.
So please tell me who you have at your 3rd edge rusher.
Let's wait to address the elephant in the room, but if you're familiar with the class, you're going to know who the elephant in the room is. My number 3 is another member of that Miami defense, Akeem Mesidor. Let me say, man, Akeem Mesidor's tape, I'm surprised this guy's flying under the radar like he is. I really think he should be a mid-first round guy. Like, I really like what I've seen out of him. The size, you like it. 6'3", nearly 260. Lateral agility, first step, both very nice. He uses his hands insanely well. Like, I really do love his hand usage as a player. Always seems to have a plan when he's getting to the quarterback. You see a lot of guys, they just run around the edge or they just try and work a move. And then when that move doesn't work, they don't know what to do. Mesidor, you never really see that happen. Overall, he just has a deep bag. The club swim is really the move that shines. He knows how to use hezzies. He knows how to use jab steps. He knows how to manipulate offensive linemen in terms of their leverage. That overall is the main thing you see happen with Akeem Mesidor, and that's how he wins his reps. He gets offensive linemen into spots they don't want to be in, and he does that with good footwork, and he takes advantage with good handiwork, right? he can also drop into coverage often. He's someone you want to see in a 3-4 defense, but he has good versatility, right? Because of his size, because of his strength, you are able to line this guy up in the 3-tech. I mean, as a freshman, this guy was a defensive tackle. He played in the 3-tech as a freshman. 4-eye, hand in the dirt edge rusher, stand-up edge rusher. Again, I think ideally he's a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he can do different stuff with the guy. I don't love his bull rush. Overall, his play strength, he's 260. You'd like to see a little bit more. He isn't this dominant power rusher. He doesn't have this dominant power profile. But I didn't really feel like he lost too many reps in the run game because of it. I thought he was strong enough as an edge to be fine. I don't think he's a liability versus the run. I think there are times where offensive linemen can get their hands inside and he can kind of get wiped out of some run plays. But overall, it's hard to get your hands inside this guy because he's such a technical savant, right? So Akeem Mesnor is a guy I like. Age might be the biggest concern here. He's going to be 25 years old as a rookie. That's the biggest concern with Mesidor for me. But again, I love the tape. I really do.
Yeah, I'm with you with Mesidor. Like him a lot. To me, the age thing, though, is real. We're comparing a 25-year-old to some guys that we're going to talk about later on this list who are 20, right? That 5-year difference of being in college is big, and that's a real red flag for me. If he goes to a team, in the first round, like the Saints, I'm just throwing some teams out there, like the Saints, teams that are not ready yet, I think that would be a very poor pick. I don't think that his timeline, and we don't talk about this a lot with first-round picks, right? His timeline will not align with the Saints' timeline because by the time they're good, he might be pushing 30. And that's a real big red flag for me. But if he goes to a team, top of the second like the Jets, or if he goes to a team in the middle of the first like the Lions, I think that that's a much better pick because the Lions, the Bears, whoever can tell themselves, hey, we might have 3 really good years of this guy being in his athletic prime. Let's, we're in our window. Let's go. That's what I just talked about with the Broncos and Bo Nix. So again, being 25 to me, that's a huge red flag, like huge. And it knocks him down a lot of pegs for me.
How about Dallas? I think Dallas would
be fine because you can say, hey, we have Dak, we have CD, we have Pickens. Yeah. So if you're a contending team, take Mesidor. If you're a team that's rebuilding and you're a team that's like, all right, we're breaking this thing down to the studs, do not take him. His timeline will not align. And again, the age thing, I like his tape.
It's real.
It's real. It is.
And I will admit, I think the biggest thing where I struggle to evaluate players is and again, I'll admit it, in my 6 years, I have struggled to do this. Accounting for age is something I've always kind of struggled to do. Like, I'm aware 25. Obviously, you would rather a 20-year-old over a 25-year-old. But at the same time, like, if you're a good player, you're a good player. And having a good player on a rookie contract, whether 25 or not, it's great value.
It is. I'm thinking more so in the sense of second contract and
yeah, sure. Absolutely.
This guy going to be better than some of these other players if we fast forward to their careers 3-4 years? I don't know. And
maybe that's a valid reason for me to have another player over him.
Yeah.
Like maybe my number 4, Cassius Howell.
Mm-hmm.
That's the player everyone had in mind. That's the only one people were thinking of in that moment.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. Texas A&M. I really like Cassius Howell. And yes, we're gonna actually get to the guy soon. Don't worry. Hold your horses, right? But let's give Cassius Howell his credit here because, man, what this guy does in terms of speed rusher, right? First step is excellent. And he has elite agility laterally. Another guy who could really bend around the edge at a really high level. Footwork, I think, is very solid. And, man, this guy might have the deepest pass rush bag in the entire class. I really do think that. Bull rush, he has it. Swim move, he has it. Spin move, he has it. Ghost rush, even. He could pull that out and win with it in very nice fashion. And that's the type of thing. When you threaten offensive linemen so much around the edge because of your bend, you're able to work so many more moves here. And he's another guy, uses the hands so well. He could explode into the backfield to force tackles for loss. He's very comfortable in coverage. Another guy in a 3-4 scheme. If you drop him back into the flat, you feel good about it. He has a nose for the football too. Like he'll drop back, tip balls. Like he wants to play the ball. He'll play it very aggressively. High motor player, and he has some high football IQ. Now, another guy, short arms, becomes a very big issue here. Play strength can be an issue. His anchor isn't great. I do think he gets washed out of run plays at sometimes, and he struggles to disengage when offensive linemen get hands on. But he can still play well against the run because you'll see this guy not get touched. I mean, his ability to just completely disengage with guys because they never get to engage in the first place. It really is remarkable. Cassius Howell is another really nice technician, and he's younger than Akeem Mesidor. I think he's like a younger Mesidor a little bit in a lot of ways.
Saying somebody's younger than Akeem Mesidor is like saying you could jump over a credit card. But I think I agree with what you're saying. I think the concerns about him in the run game are real. He's really light, and I doubt that obviously at the frequency that he does in college, he's just gonna be able to just blow guys off the ball, and that's how he has to win in run plays, in my opinion. So the size does concern me a little bit. But from a pass rush standpoint, the guy's really good. Probably a top 2 or 3 pass rusher in the draft. I mean, this guy just sacks in bunches this year. But we got to go.
He's a guy, though, that could blow up run plays, even if he doesn't anchor down.
He'd have to win with speed, though.
Exactly, but he can. And we've seen guys do that.
But you do that less
consistently. Because of how good his handiwork is, he can, completely avoid an offensive lineman getting hands inside for an entire rep. I mean, real. Again, not a landmark defender against the run. I'm not going to act like this, but he could definitely blow some plays up in the backfield.
No. Well, it's that time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, okay.
We got to get to your next player, and this might take up every second we have remaining in the segment. But please tell me who your fourth, and yes, I said fourth, best edge rusher is in this draft class.
The fifth.
Oh, fifth. Wow, fifth.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll say it, and I will say you switched up. I thought you were on the train with me for a period of time, but clearly you're not. David Bailey's my fifth edge, right? And I'm not going to lie, it kind of took a lot to even get him here. David Bailey. So let's start with what is good about him. David Bailey's athletic profile is really nice. I mean, there's no doubting that. The speed around the edge is incredible. He has some of that great bend we just talked about. First step, really, really damn nice. And the spin move is borderline unstoppable. Thing is, you can't make a career out of a spin move, right? And you know what else you can't make a career out of? Just running around the edge and doing nothing else. And I'm sorry to break it to you, man. David Bailey's tape, his impressive plays and his, highlight plays are like 90% just that. Just like running around the edge. And yeah, against Jawan Taylor, you might get him once in a game. But against real offensive tackles that are good at the sport, you're not winning like that. You have to work moves. He has a spin move. Not really much else. He doesn't really win with his hands. I mean, he's not a great hand fighter. I'm sorry. He has a ghost move. Fine. He could play off the ghost move a little bit. The thing is, I feel like David Bailey took a little bit too much time studying the highlight moves, the flashy moves, and he didn't really get the fundamentals to really set those up. You can't win by just running around the edge. And you could win a few times with the ghost move. You could win a few times with the spin move. You're not making a career out of it. I'm sorry. I'm being 100% genuine here. And that's fine. Like, if he's a raw pass rusher, that's fine. If he was even remotely a good run defender. The effort isn't there, right? You want to talk about Cassius Howell getting blown off the football and completely dismantled in the run game. That's fine. But at least he shows the effort to go ahead and make it explosive against the run. David Bailey, I'm not going to lie. I think he sees it be a run play and he just stops. He starts walking.
He's just full on Mark Gastineau. Just does not care about.
It looks like it. Yeah. It really does. Like it's an effort issue. It's not as much technique as it is effort. And maybe you say that's coachable, but maybe you say I don't want to coach a guy like that. Maybe I say I'd much rather 25-year-old Akeem Mesidor, who has amazing tape, has a really high motor. Bailey doesn't. Bailey has some cool highlights where he works an inside spin move. Bailey has a cool highlight or two where he shows a really impressive ghost move. Besides that, Bailey just runs by people he's more athletic than. In the NFL, you are not just able to bank on athleticism like that. Very rarely can you. Bailey's film doesn't wow me. Also, I see this guy try and work bull rushes, and he wins with bull rushes at times. Yeah, dude, I'm sorry to break it to you. You're not strong enough to do that. You're not big enough to do that. At the NFL level, you try and bull rush some of these offensive tackles, they are mauling you. You're getting knocked out for the season. Bailey doesn't have the size to be doing the stuff he does.
He's
He's
not
such
small.
a clear.
He's like 6'3", 250. What was 255? I mean, he's not small.
He isn't. He's a thin 250.
Okay.
He doesn't. Like, you look at him bull rushing a guy, he's knocking the guy back because their pads they're practically standing all the way up. He isn't bull rushing an anchor down guy. It looks like if I was trying to push a brick wall.
There you go. There's the
really,
analogies. There you go.
He doesn't have the functional strength to do the stuff he does. I think he's a very clear example of someone that's great at a college level, but I think unless someone does some resounding work on the guy, he isn't going to be very impressive beyond a designated pass rushing route.
I don't think he's like some big reclamation project in the sense of like this guy, he's got the ingredients to be a pass rusher, but we just need to put it together. He's been very productive in college. Like very.
Yeah,
he
but I
had
just
13
said how.
sacks last year. Well, I think you're being I don't think you're giving his athleticism enough credit. I think that this guy is productive. I think that I like his speed off the edge, although that is kind of a backhanded compliment because
no, he has great speed off the edge.
I think he needs to probably put on 10, 15 pounds to anchor himself a little bit more because
does he still have that speed off the edge?
But that's why I say backhanded compliment because it's like, yeah, you're fast, but you probably need to gain a little bit more weight. So I don't know. We need to put him on like the Zion Williamson diet here for a little bit. But
I'll say what's real. If he maybe starts to care more and actually care about the run game, maybe this could be an explode into the backfield, light up every run play possible type of guy.
If we're talking about because right now Arvell Reese is kind of a question mark, right? And we're saying I think he's going to reach his ceiling. Why are you not providing that same hope in David Bailey, who you can admit gains 10, 15 pounds, starts really putting an effort in the run game? Probably is going to be a really good edge in the NFL. Like the things you're saying to me in my head are fixable. So why are we giving grace to Arvell Reese but not to David Bailey?
Because you look at Arvell Reese's tape, he's everything you want in an edge rusher. He just doesn't have as many snaps as you want. Instead, David Bailey has had more snaps.
I want experience in production. Like, he doesn't have those necessarily.
I'm saying the tape. In terms of the tape, he shows off every single thing you need. Meanwhile, David Bailey, yeah, he has numbers, man. That's awesome. That's cool. Let me watch how he got those numbers. Oh, he ran by this guy. Oh, he bull rushed this guy who didn't even remotely lower his hips. It is a completely different story.
Part of that's just
in terms of scouting.
They're going up against accountants and
sure, but I'm going to be honest. I didn't see. I'll say this. I haven't seen a single impressive bull rush rep from David Bailey. Yeah. At least in last year's tape. Maybe if I dive back to his tape from, before he was playing for Texas Tech, maybe I'd feel differently. But in terms of his tape last year, I didn't see impressive bull rush tape, right? Yeah. I saw, again, the spin move, legit. Legit. I think there's a world where he's a really, really nice designated pass rusher. And maybe he shows some more effort against the run. Being number 5 in this class, you're still ahead of some guys I really like. I like Keldrick Falk. I think could be a nice developmental product.
I have no idea what to do with Keldrick Falk. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I like him or not. I'm so confused about it.
He has some tools.
He does, but also this year was so weird for him. Like
I think Keldrick Falk, you look at him, the issue is he might have some of the worst play recognition in like the history of
But then again, he's football. 20. So it's
exactly.
Like you get the Akeem Mesidor senior treatment for 5 years, and all of a sudden maybe he can recognize a screen. You know what I mean?
Well, let me say, I was very close to having Keldrick Falk out of David Bailey.
Oh my god, dude.
I'm gonna be entirely legit, and I do think Keldrick Falk's ceiling is higher than David Bailey's. I'll be honest with you.
Well, his ceiling, I think that's first of all, that's insane. Second of all, the argument there is he's 20. He can't even drink a beer yet. Like, we don't know what he's going to be.
20, and he has a power profile that impresses me on tape, and it's not just, this win was marked against.
He had some funky technique last year, bro. Funky technique. Funky. That's coaching, though, partially.
Yeah, again, Keldrick Falk, I could see him being a nothing in the NFL, but I could also see him being a hell of a football player. David Bailey, I think the very realistic outcome, what I'm expecting from him, He comes into the league. He's a designated pass rusher. And maybe he develops to be a very good one. Or maybe he just tries to beat people around the edge and he'll beat bad offensive tackles and not good ones. Because that's, again, what it looked like in college. I like TJ Parker. Not love him. I don't love him. I think the power profile is nice.
Mid-second, probably.
Mid-second, maybe early third. Early third, right? Keldrick Falk, though.
He'd be going to Bears. I'll say that.
I think Keldrick Falk is more of the developmental product who could develop, like he could become a stud here. TJ Parker, on the other hand, again, I think you're likely looking at someone that's really just there to anchor down against the run. I think that's really what you're looking at. Yeah. He can be a really nice pass rusher with just the bull rush. I think there is a little bit of potential there. But yeah, overall, I think it's really the top four guys. Then I would say David Bale or Arvell Reese is in a tier of his own. I would say Ruben Baines in a tier of his own. Howell and Mesidor, I would say, are kind of in their own tier. Then I would say Bailey and Falk are in their own tier. And then you get into this weird spot after that where like TJ Parker, Malachi Lawrence,
Young is good, Byron Young.
Height. Zion Young. I think you get a lot of guys that are more of like role players then. Yeah. It's an interesting edge class for sure. Yeah, I'll say that. Is. And I think the big thing they have to keep in mind, and it's always not how I approach the draft and these evaluations, but I do think it's very real. With the NFL draft, the top 3 or 5 guys are not pretty much never the top 3 or 5 guys. There are busts in this league. And I'm not saying I put David Bailey low because I wanted to be different, but I'm saying I noticed I had something different on my rankings here, and I chose to encourage it instead of just being a coward, right? Because that's normally what works. When I had Quentin Johnston as the 11th best receiver in that draft, I didn't say, oh, everyone else has him as the wide receiver 1, so I'm going to change it. I said, oh, I feel great that I have that. You know, when I had Amon Ra as a top 3 receiver in his draft class, I didn't say, oh, no one else has him top 3. I should move him back. I said, well, being different is how you become right about the draft. Sometimes I look like an idiot. I will admit there are times where I look like I'm a complete, I know nothing.
Yeah, I thought Jaden Daniels was going to be horrible, so I'm going to walk that one back a little bit. But
But that's the thing about the draft. You have to be able to go ahead and say, hey, I disagree with the consensus. Because if you just agree with the consensus all the time, you are going to be wrong because the consensus is wrong. That's not because the draft system is wrong. That's just because it's a really difficult thing to do. And people are going to be wrong sometimes. People are going to be right sometimes. I do think the general consensus is wrong on David Bailey this time around.
Interesting. And I'll say, the draft is an imperfect science. Myles Garrett was the first pick in the draft. Max Crosby was a 6th-round pick. There's so much in between. We have not diluted this down to be a perfect science. It is something that we're still tweaking. And I encourage, as I know I made fun of you for having David Bailey that low, but I encourage it. I think it's good that we have strong opinions on players. Because guess what? When you're right, you look like a genius. All right? And when you're wrong, you get a bunch of comments.
Draft, so it's not my fault.
Yeah, it's not my fault. Well, I didn't know they were going to take him.
He hasn't played a snap. What do you want me to say?
Yeah. I didn't know the Saints were going to take him. Their coaching sucks. Listen, that's my motto in life. You're never wrong. You're just early. Right? That's what I say all the time to myself. So if a guy's whatever, if you had J.J. Watt as a bust, well, guess what? He's not playing the NFL anymore. You are right in 2026. So that's okay.
But the draft isn't the only imperfect science in the NFL because free agency, we see some teams get better. We see some teams get worse. Let's talk about some teams that are up in the air in that specific category. Speed round here, right? So we're going to try and go quick. Start us off here. New England Patriots, right? Biggest additions, you're looking at Kevin Byard. They added Romeo Doubs. They added Draymond Jones. But they lost Caleb Von Chason. They lost Stephon Diggs. They lost Jalen Hawkins. Tell me, you think they got better or worse since their Super Bowl?
Slightly better. Slightly
better. Really?
I like their additions a little bit more than I like their losses. Kevin Byard is a sneaky one. I think they got slightly better this year so far.
Yeah. Dobbs or Diggs? You have a huge preference in that sense?
No, probably split even, honestly.
Okay. I think Diggs is strongly better. I will say I think the Patriots got
age though.
That's fair. I do think the Patriots got a little bit worse. Keep in mind Chason was pretty impressive towards the end of last year. All right.
I think it was inconsequential fairly for them so far.
It was. I agree. It's very close. Now, how about the Baltimore Ravens? You have a splash loss here in terms of Tyler Linderbaum. Also lost Isaiah Likely. But yet, added Trey Hendrickson. You improved at the guard spot, which they really needed. Tell me, you think they got better or worse?
They got worse. Pretty clearly, they got worse.
Pretty
Tyler
clearly
Linderbaum.
got worse.
Yeah, one of the worst
Even with
centers.
all the edge need they had. Wow.
Well,
You think it's a no-brainer?
If you want to count Max Crosby as a loss this offseason? Because I do. No, I'm just kidding. But no, they got worse. Tyler Linderbaum is pretty irreplaceable at center. A lot of teams spend years looking for a quality center. Isaiah Likely is a guy I've always loved. I think that they kind of shipped him out of town in favor of Mark Andrews. I think that's a mistake. Yes, they made some good additions, but I do think they got worse so far in free agency.
How about the Chiefs? You lose McDuffie. That's a big deal. You lose Leo Chanel. You lose Brian Cook. But you add last year's Super Bowl MVP and some nice role players in Alohi Gilman and Kyrus Tonga here. What do you think? I mean, we know the type of playmaker Ken Walker could be. What do you think, better or worse?
Yeah, they're better. They're better.
They're better.
Even
without McDuffie. You lose McDuffie, you lose those corners. That's
you
big.
didn't lose McDuffie. You traded McDuffie. You have the 9th overall pick, and I project they're going to take a corner with that pick.
Okay.
So if we're counting the trade, we have to count the draft capital they got back.
That's true. That is true.
Getting Kenneth Walker was huge. One of the best free agent signings, in my opinion. They are going to be an explosive offense, which they haven't been for many years, and I do think they're going to use that 9th pick for McDuffie to get younger and cheaper at corner. I think the Chiefs got better.
Okay, that I didn't think about that. You do get the capital. I would still say the Chiefs got worse. I just think Chanel is such an important piece. Cook is such an important piece. You lost 2 very good corners for you. Like, those are important pieces there. I like Ken Walker. I like who they might be able to draft. I don't know if I like them enough. I do think the Chiefs got worse as a football team. Now, how about the Philadelphia Eagles? Another team coming off of a little bit of a down year, just like the Chiefs. You lose Phillips. You lose Dean. You lose Reed Blankenship, all those guys, starters for your defense. But you add Reek Woolen, who is such a stud corner here. I mean, now you might have the best trio of corners in the league. You think they're a better or worse team?
I think this one's a wash. I think what they lost in quantity, they gained in quality with Reek Woolen. There's a chance that it blows up and he's, makes a lot more dumb plays than he did in Seattle last year, but he's a really good player. So I think this is pretty much a wash. Now,
I feel like Philly's culture is bound to get the worst out of Reek Woolen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He is going to get burnt one time, and they're going to meme him to death. I will say this is pending an A.J. Brown trade. So I'm going to say wash, and I'm going to say incomplete grade. I know that's cheating, but I don't care. It's my show, too, so I can do what I want.
I think they got better because they have replacements for Jalen Phillips. They have replacements for Nakobe Dean. I think they're going to get better at that weak side linebacker spot.
Yeah, they have great depth at the defensive line, so the James loss isn't crazy.
Yeah. And then Jahad Campbell's coming in for Nakobe Dean. I think they're going to get better. Right. And then Reed Blankenship. I've always thought Reed Blankenship's a little bit overrated. I do.
Why?
I think he's a good player.
Why?
Huh? I think he's overrated because he has a funny nickname and he's part of a funnily nicknamed crew. But, I mean, you have 2, pretty good safeties on the bench there in Makuba, who's going to fill in for Epps at the strong safety spot. And then you have Sidney Brown coming in at free safety. I think that'll be, fine replacements. And then you added Reek Woolen. I think they got better as a football team. Now, will Jalix Hunt be Jalen Phillips? Maybe not. I think that might be a bit of a downgrade, but Reek Woolen is such an upgrade over Adoree Jackson. Absolutely. Now, the last one, your Chicago Bears. You lose DJ Moore. You lose Drew Dahlman. You lose Kevin Byard. But you add Garrett Bradbury. You add Kobe Bryant, who I know you love. And you also added Devin Bush. I guess that's something that is worth mentioning.
Put that in the losses category because that's what that is for the Bears. No, the Bears got worse.
Subtraction by addition.
Yeah. The Bears got worse. Again, this is a team that didn't have a big free agency. I will say some of their losses, Nashawn Wright, Jonathan Owens, Jaquan Brisker, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, all those guys got 1-year deals. The market really told you what they thought of the Bears secondary last year. Yeah. So I don't know that those guys are. Yes, they're we need to fill positions. I don't know those guys are irreplaceable. So
yeah, I like Brisker a lot, but I do agree.
Yeah. But the loss of DJ Moore, I don't think is going to hurt them as badly. I think Byard's the big one there.
Not as much as the second rounder will benefit them.
Yeah, exactly. Byard's the big one, but they didn't really do anything crazy for agency. Like you said, I like Kobe Bryant a lot, but they didn't really open up the checkbook. So I also think
Dahlman to Bradbury is such a huge.
Dahlman to Bradbury is the big one, and they lost more than anything. I think they lost depth, so they're going to have to devote draft resources for depth.
And those young guys are going to get better. They're still going to be a better team. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So I think the Bears, this is free agency we're talking about. So far, they're a little bit worse off.
Yeah, no, when it's the Bears we're talking about, free agency, it matters very little. But when it's these other teams, it's make or break.
I don't
Super
care what
Bowl
the Bears do. They're going to take a Hall of Famer at 25. I think everybody knows King Poles is ready to cook.
All right. So that's all the time we got for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. It was a fun one here.
Yeah, it was good.
We had a lot of disagreement early.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, that last segment, not too much disagreement.
Not too much. Although David Bailey, I'm becoming a David Bailey truther. So
I know you disagree with me there, but you're wrong, so it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think you're wrong. I think
Listen, we're only gonna do more of these draft rankings. Shit's gonna get even more crazy.
The draft when David Bailey goes number 2 to the Jets, we're gonna be yelling at each other through the screen.
I think we'll both agree that that's like suicide for him because it's the New York Jets.
Well, yeah, that's true. I don't like
if he goes to the Jets,
but
we
Geno
agree
Smith.
He's a bust.
But Geno Smith, yeah. Yeah, probably. So, yeah, that'll do it for today's episode, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.